The views and opinions expressed in the following paid pre-recorded program are those of the host, callers, and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the station, its management, or its owners.
You are listening to a best of Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall on KTRS.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC. Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC. Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Capital Advisory Group, Inc. is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS nor Kestra AS provide legal or tax advice and are not certified public accounting firms.
You work hard for your money. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to keep what's yours. Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours. Here are Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Hello and welcome to Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. My name is Josh Gilbert, sitting here with Jeff Zufall. He is the Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Hello, Jeff.
Hello. Happy Saturday.
Doing another show today, and you just said that you ran into somebody who said, oh my gosh, I've listened to every show that you guys have ever
That's
done.
That's
right. And if I miss one, I go back and listen to it on the website. So big shout out to the loyal listeners, and I always say this, who here pays taxes? Show of hands.
Everybody.
Me. Jeff pays taxes. Even though he knows the tax code inside out, he still has to pay them. Everybody pays taxes, so everybody should listen to this show because the idea being, yes, we have to pay taxes. It's a necessary evil. I don't necessarily mind paying taxes, but I don't
agree.
To a degree. But I don't want to pay any more than what I legally have to.
Legally obligated to.
And legally is the key word there.
Yes.
There are things written in the tax code that I can take advantage of legally and not have to worry about the IRS coming over and saying, how come you didn't pay us those taxes?
Why do you do that?
And there's ways to do it legally, and I would say, strategically.
Strategic is a better word.
Yeah.
And again, what you're trying to do is plot off. Sometimes it's tax bracket planning. Hey, don't let your income go over X. And other times it's, hey, what can we add within this, for the year to get you where you need to be?
And I would like to think at the IRS, when they get my tax return and see what they're doing, what I'm doing with my FSA that Jeff hooked me up with, see what I'm doing with this, that, and the other that Jeff has kind of worked for us when we go and visit him 2 times a year. I like to think that when my tax return comes over, somebody at the IRS, goes, wait a minute, stop everything. We have found someone who's using the tax code to their benefit. And there's
very rarely.
big bell that they ring, ding, ding, ding. But more likely than not, when it comes over, somebody sees it and grumbled,
I got this.
We're not getting as much money as we wanted to. So, it is what it is, but it's there for us to take advantage of. The only problem is I don't know how the tax code works.
Exactly. What you can and can't do, and how it would affect you, how it would help you. That's at the end of the day, the biggest trick.
I didn't know what a flex spending account was before I talked to you. I didn't know what a health savings account was before I chatted with you. I didn't know about RMDs, required minimum distributions, when we get older. I don't know these things. And if we don't do anything about it, if you just let your RMD kick in when you're 72 or 75, whatever age it is, by the time we get up there, if you just let it kick in, more times than not,
a huge tax time bomb.
You're paying more in taxes than you have to.
Yes.
So the idea is, get Jeff on the phone, 636-394-5524. Get Jeff on the phone. Go in, visit him, give him your stuff, and say, hey, is there a way for us to legally, strategically save money, keep a little bit more money on our paychecks, in our bank accounts, in our retirement, and have less go to the federal government? And chances are Jeff's going to say, well, yes.
Yes.
There's several things you can do. So that's what we do here every week. We talk about the tax code. We talk about what's going on in the news in the hopes that it sits with you. It sinks in to say, hey, I don't have to pay that much in taxes anymore because I can go out and find a guy like Jeff who can help me work the tax code to my benefit. Now, we're going to talk about what happens when we do go in and see you. And I always say this, when it comes to doctor's appointments, haircuts, which I need desperately, any appointment that you want, just call and get it on the calendar.
Exactly. That's all you got to do.
And then worry about, child care or telling your job or whatever.
The other side of that is a lot of people think that it has to be a sit-down appointment. I mean, yes, I'd prefer that, just sitting across the table from you talking, but we could do phone calls. We can do Zoom calls. And an in-person sit-down. So I'm open to any, form of how you would like to talk. If you're busy, maybe it's a Zoom, maybe it's a phone call to start the process. Other people, maybe it's a Zoom call, and other people would love. I mean, I know it takes a lot of your time to get in the car, drive over, sit down, go through a process in a sense. But that's the best way to do it. But we've done many, many, many through Zoom or phone calls. So that's an option too out there.
So get an appointment on the calendar, and whether it's an in-person sit-down or a phone call or a Zoom or whatever, just put it on the calendar and then figure out,
Yeah. Maybe we have an introductory call. We kind of discuss what you got going. We can talk prices, set up the whole shooting match, and then formulate the game plan and go from there.
So just get on the calendar, 636-394-5524. Plan your life around it. Make sure you take off work. Make sure you got child care. If you're retired, well, you can come in tomorrow.
That's right.
Or whenever.
Every day's a Saturday.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things. You got to do it. You got to take the time and sit down to do it. So just put it on the calendar and then go to the appointment,
Yes.
make the phone call when the calendar, alert comes around, and then get the ball rolling. Because, Jeff, once we leave, we'll probably have a list of things, action items on your end and on our end.
Exactly.
And maybe if I forgot something, hey, do you have a qualified account? Oh, yeah. Well, bring that back in or shoot it over. So we'll talk about all that stuff in the next segment, but let's hit what's in the news and talk about something that's coming across your desk quite a bit. What happens when the IRS mails me something?
Yes. So for starters, do not panic. Basically, if you receive mail from the IRS, there's a couple of variations in them. Some of them are notices. Read the notice. I say that usually people just get this notice and they're like, "Oh my God, it's mail from the IRS. I'm doomed." Don't panic. Typically, it just means that most of them, what we're seeing currently, are validation of identity. So literally, you as the taxpayer are the only person that we can't do it for you. You have to call and validate the tax return that it's you filing that return. And the IRS is doing this just randomly to spot check people to see where we're at. The other one says, hey, maybe we have a dispute. It's not a tax owed, but they're going to adjust or change your tax return off what they think. And other ones are, hey, you filed your return with a balance due. You owe us money. Write a check now. So they typically start with regular mail, shows up just, poof, out of the blue. Whatever you get it to us so we can take a peek at it. People call us all the time. They start reading the letter to us. Don't even do that because we'll stop you and say, send us the letter. And we need technically 3 or 4 pages of it. You can scan it, email it, drop it off, fax it, whatever you got to do to get it to us. Then we kind of know how we can respond to that. Because some of them, we got one a week ago, that says that his return was filed with a balance due, and it wasn't. He gets a refund. So somewhere in there, we haven't figured it out yet, they're missing some data that they see, so they're overriding what we did, saying, oh, yeah, this person owes, but they don't. So we start a letter writing campaign, start calling them, and go from there. If you get a certified letter, do not just toss it on the desk and say, hey, I'll get back to that in a couple of days. Call us immediately. If you get a certified letter, they're trying to get your attention, and they usually do. They're very strong worded. When it's certified, it's very strong worded. Like, hey, we're going to levy your assets and take everything you own today, which most people read it and go, yeeks. If it's $23, no, they're not going to levy your assets for $23. It's a computer-generated scenario, but it's getting your attention because somebody didn't respond, going forward.
Does it say in these letters, like if they say that you owe them and they want to levy your assets, does it say in the letters how much?
Well, it may have a balance due.
Okay.
And that's what they're trying to retrieve in a sense. So again, if we communicate with the IRS, they will not levy. A levy of your assets basically means the IRS just reaches in your bank account one day and takes out whatever they think you owe. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And then you have to go fight them, in a sense, to get it back if you're correct. And those are usually, I say, extreme circumstances. And we haven't seen it since COVID. They literally the collections department just came back to life maybe February of 24, where they sent an email out saying, hey, all of our offices are open now. So all of a sudden...
We took that government money and we staffed up, and we're coming back to collect.
We're coming back to collect. So people would get a letter from 2019 that they owed them $210. From 2019, it's 2024. And then the people are like, well, wait a minute. Well, that's what was sitting out there when they shut the doors. They're back open, so now the system's flushing itself out in a sense. So if you paid it, then no, you don't owe it.
Yeah.
So,
is there any numbers right now of how much the IRS has collected since they've...
No, I looked for that the other day, and I couldn't see anything yet on what the Treasury Department has brought in, because that's one of the things that is always a big debate. They say, hey, you would think, rational thinking would say, if you raise taxes, you would raise revenue. But it doesn't work that way. Typically, if you cut taxes or decrease certain parts of the tax code, you will raise revenue just because more people are paying. So this goes back, right, wrong, or indifferent, to when Trump put it together in 2018 as tax package that started 2019. He put SALT in there, or took it out, which is state and local taxes. So typically, your real estate tax, your state tax, your local tax, all that stuff is thrown into the kitty in a sense, and whatever that number adds up to, you get to take hypothetical deduction for. They came along and said, nope, we're capping that category at $10,000. Have a nice day. And 85% of America cannot itemize anymore because that's gone. So, everybody's like, oh, look what Trump did to you, as a revenue generator is what it was. So then when the Democrats took office, everybody went, well, hey, wait, you guys were all, saying you didn't like this stuff. We're going to change it. And they go, nope, we're going to keep it.
Yeah.
Because it's a revenue generator.
The government needs money.
They need the cash. So again, you go, if you were able to take your mortgage interest and deduct it, and again, if you go back, the federal government was helping, supplement home buyers in the U.S. because you were able to deduct your mortgage interest, but you can't do that anymore now. A handful of people can, but the bulk cannot. So you go, oh, wait a minute, was that by design, or was that the reality of what they were doing? So,
yeah,
that's just one of the weird little things that they throw out there in the tax law. So.
And the government has something on their end, and it's up to us and you. It's up to me and you to make sure that our end matches their end.
Exactly.
This is the cat and mouse dance of the IRS.
Yeah, so if your tax return gets e-filed, it goes through the system, and it flies right through the system. I'm not going to say, you wrote off your dog or something goofy like that. But those types of items will fly right through, and you'll get your refund. And then there's other stuff that will flag it, pull it to the side, and then everybody calls going, well, hey, I haven't got my refund yet. It's been 4 weeks or 5 weeks, probably because they grabbed it for some reason, and they're now adjusting or looking at what you have going on. So.
And then they'll probably end up sending you.
They send you a letter in the mail. And usually they're sort of nice, but some are very aggressive.
And some are just as innocuous as, hey, we just want to prove that you are who you say you are.
Which is identity. You have to call this 800 number. You have to have your tax return in front of you, and they'll walk you through. Go to line 22, tell me what it says, and you're proving your identity to a person on the phone at the IRS. There's tons of those. Last year there was a ton of them. This year we've seen maybe a dozen or so. But it's just a spot check, just to see where they're at.
So don't necessarily worry, but don't ignore it.
Yeah. So we get people that send that to us, and they're like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" And it's like, read it. That's what I say. It sounds stupid, but most people get it. They panic. They're thinking, "Oh my God, the IRS sent me a letter. What do I do?" but read it, and it's as simple as saying, call this 800 number, have your tax return ready, and validate your identity.
Yep.
That's a simple one.
Okay. So in the people that are out there saying, well, the IRS says I owe them $200. Why are they coming after me? Well, I mean, you didn't
there's
pay
something,
your taxes correctly.
There's something on there, and most of the time what it is underpayment penalties. So as you roll forward to the end of the year, your tax is due on April 15th. If you owe them more than $1,000 throughout the year, you got an underpayment penalty, period. And you're paying for what you didn't pay in as you go forward. So in a sense, you're penalized if you owe more than $1,000. But again, the flip side of that is you don't want to get a $5,000 refund back from the IRS because they've been sitting on cash all year long, and you don't get the benefits of that interest.
Yeah.
So.
And interest being what it is nowadays.
Oh, it's worth it now.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, everybody, I always hear people say, I'm giving the government an interest-free loan.
You are for 13 to 14 months on average. So,
and technically that is true.
Yeah.
So you want to adjust your withholdings so that you're as close to zero, but you don't owe and you don't get any back.
Zero is perfect. In the real world, it's almost impossible to hit.
Yeah.
But you could hit a couple $100 either way. Is perfect.
And when should you file an amended return before we go to commercial break?
All right. So basically, an amended return is you're correcting something on the return. So typically this time of year, we get people are like, hey, I got this 1099, or, oop, I forgot interest at this bank. I totally forgot I had it. Or you get it's not even your fault as the taxpayer. You get a corrected W-2. We're seeing a lot of corrected HSA statements on the 1099s. And it's just moving numbers from one box to the other. So that's when you would file an amended return, even if it doesn't change your tax liability, but just proving to the IRS, hey, I've received this adjusted, like an HSA account where it says, hey, it was a $100 difference, $100 in your favor. It really doesn't change your tax due. You just make sure that you put it in the amended return. The problem is in the state of Missouri, they do not accept e-filed amended
returns. Yeah.
So that's the problem is you got to print it, mail it, and that's when you get into the old school game where now you're sitting there crossing your fingers hoping that,
somebody opens your
somebody
envelope.
touches it and they see it. So
I just got my letter in the mail to update my my license plates. And, it's got this little number. If you'd like to do it online, here's your
PIN
code.
number, that's the awesomest thing.
I love e-filing.
Yep.
I love it. I
So
love it.
The funny part, though, is then you go, oh, wait, I need to find this. But you really don't need to find anything because as long as your real estate tax is paid, you click the button saying you have insurance, you're done. That's
Yeah.
it.
It's so easy. And they came, the plates themselves came in the mail 3 days later.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So
Super
e-filing,
fast.
yeah, as long as everything's good, you have Jeff do your taxes, your numbers match their numbers, you e-file. I mean, I got my tax return within a week.
Yeah, this year it went really quick.
Yeah.
Unless they singled you out, pulled you to the side, and then and usually the ones over 3.5 weeks, there's something going on.
And again, it might not even be your fault. It might just be something that, hey, we wanted to look into this, let us know. So that is sitting out there as well. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what to do, what happens when you get that calendar event on the calendar. I don't know why I keep saying calendar. You get the appointment on the calendar.
Appointment on the calendar.
To go and see Jeff. You bring in all your stuff and you say, Jeff, what can you do for me? What actually happens in that meeting? We'll talk about it on the other side of this. But this is Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. Capital Advisory Group. CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. And you can call them 636-394-5524. Call now. Leave a message. Call on Monday, talk to somebody, say, put an appointment on the calendar. I want to come in and see Jeff and just get the ball rolling. Senior tax strategist and wealth advisor with Capital Advisory Group, and he's helping me keep more of my money. He can help you keep your money, too. We'll be back on the Big 550 right after this.
You are listening to a best of Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall on KTRS.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, back to Keep What's Yours, and let's talk, Jeff. Somebody puts an appointment on the calendar. They come in and see you. What does this look like? Now, I've done it mostly for tax stuff,
Yeah.
yearly tax stuff, but we've talked a little bit about retirement and stuff, but I'm 42.
Yeah.
I still got a ways to go.
Yeah, now it's 83, I think, is your retirement date.
Is my shooting that moving target. It keeps moving up though.
Yeah.
So we haven't gotten really too nitty gritty with it. You just kind of looked at my stuff and says this looks good. Just keep rocking and rolling.
Doing it. Yep, exactly.
Increase by a percentage a year.
Yeah, 1% a year would help you a ton. Doesn't take food off the table, but it's slowly out of sight, out of mind going forward. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So typically the way it would go is you'd come to the office. You'd bring with you maybe 2 years worth of tax returns, all of your brokerage statements, everything that you have, CDs at the bank. If you hold a lot of money in a bank account, just because that's you don't know any better, bring that statement. Any brokerage accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs that you have, anything you have at work, any pensions that are hidden out there. Mercy, SSM, all those guys had a full-blown pension at one point in time back in the day. They all got kind of frozen, and then they forced them to go to a 401k or a 403b.
You save your money.
Yeah,
We're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, it was so they basically put the blame or the performance concept on the employee versus the company. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It gives you a little bit more flexibility, but it is what it is. Even to the degree of life insurance policies, a lot of people leave these life policies just thrown in the drawer, and they're like, hopefully I never have to use them. Concept is what are you going to do with them? You know what I mean? Most people will buy a life policy because they're replacing your current income today. So yes, if you passed away today, boom, death benefit would pay out. But what if you're 75 and you go, man, I've had these life policies, what do I do with them? Question is, do you really need that level of life insurance, or do you want to leave a gift to the kids? I say the gift to the kids would be a chunk of change, tax-free. They don't have to worry about anything, and hopefully they're not out buying Maseratis, and you had to save your whole life. You leave them enough money, they're buying Maseratis that kind of make you mad. But what we do is we sit down and go through your tax return, take the tax return as the base, and then take all of everything that you do, financial, brokerage accounts, and we look at what are you doing. Most people don't, and I say this honestly, they don't look at the detail statement of their brokerage statement, like, hey, this is what I own, and these are my winners and my losers. Now, there's unrealized gains or unrealized losses. I talked with a client 3 weeks ago. I won't say the name of the company, but they're like, yeah, we're income-based. And I go, really? And so literally when they showed me the statement, they have all corporate bonds that they bought a couple years ago. They've probably lost 19% of the value of the bonds because of, by default, interest rates skyrocketed. They own these bonds. The yield of the bonds went up. I'll agree 100%, but the value, the price per share dropped like a rock. So when you look at that, that's the stuff you need to look at. They're looking at it from, hey, it's still paying me income. I get that. But the concept is, why forfeit principal to get that current income coming forward? So that's the stuff that we go through. Then what we do is we gather a whole bunch of information from you, who you are, what you want to do, birthdays and what your beneficiaries look like. What's retirement look like for you? What's your budget in retirement? If you're in your 40s, that may be a far-fetched number. Just because you're so far off, you really have no idea. But then take all that, compile it. We can put it in a couple of pieces of software. The software can actually create a plan. The plan will show you what it looks like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And this isn't based upon, if you get a 7% rate of return every year and the market never goes down, you have hundreds of millions of dollars. It's basically trying to take it and say, here's what you own. Here's the best case scenario that could happen, and here's the worst case scenario that could happen, and it will give you an odds of success. So if you say, hey, I need $15,000 a month in retirement, it's going to project that off and say, based upon your asset allocation, could it pull that off? And sometimes they'll come out and say, hey, no sweat. You can do it. It's easy. Other times it says you're short by $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
And here's what you do. And that's what we kind of work through. And it may take, it's not just one appointment and we're done. It may take 2 or 3 appointments because it's a lot of data being thrown at you. First one's more the discovery meeting. The second, third, and fourth one is actually how you implement this plan going forward.
So when you say what's your retirement look like, this is, you're asking what age do you think you are?
What age? And then we also do a calculation to say, based upon where you're at today, when's the best time to take Social Security? And that's a big question that people always have. But most people...
Do people normally do 65 because that's when they don't have to pay insurance anymore?
No, we see them from 62 going, get me out of here as fast as possible.
Right, yeah.
To, I'm going to wait until I'm 74 before I take Social Security because I get the biggest bang for my buck.
Mm-hmm.
So we see everything in between. And what we try and do is some people, typically what it falls on is if you're still working, you have to go to your full retirement age, which depending upon what year you were born, there's an age out there. But I say the most people that are in their late 50s, early 60s, they're 66 and a half, 66 and 8 months, 67, somewhere in that range. That's when they can make $2 million in retirement. They can't, Social Security cannot take it away from you. So you're taxed on it, but they can't take it away. So if you are 63 and you say, I'm taking my Social Security, but I'm still working, you can basically only make about 19 grand a year, 20 grand a year max. Anything in excess of that, for every $2 over, they take $1 of your Social Security away.
So okay.
So that's the issue of the day. So you got to play that just right. But it's employment earnings only. So it's self-employment or W-2 earnings. Your IRA money, your trust money, you could take that as income and it doesn't count against you.
I was just sitting down with my in-laws, and I had my father-in-law is retired, and he was talking about how he cashed in some stocks or whatever. He didn't do the math right, and he was over by $3,000. His income had risen to a point. He said Social Security dinged him for $100.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, in the grand scheme of things, what's $100 extra tax on your Social Security? But he was like trying to play the game.
Yes.
And he just missed the math on it.
It's very tricky because, again, the flip of that is IRMA, which is your earnings limit for Medicare, not income tax, but earnings limit for Medicare premiums. Literally, if you're over by $1, you go to the next threshold. So if you play the game, you cut it really close. If you're $1 over that bracket, you pay double going forward.
Have you told somebody, maybe we get a plan set out for the year. This is what we're going to take out in retirement. This is what we're going to do to avoid having our Social Security taxed. But then in October, they're like, Jeff, there's this boat that I've been looking at. I've got my eye on it. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's
Just had
beautiful.
that conversation every day. Have it probably weekly. And it's like, well, I got X in my retirement, and I got X in my wife's. I could probably take hers and cash it in, and then I could buy that. Concept is no. Prior to 59 and a half, don't cash it in. It's just so costly, it's not even funny. So in this situation, it worked out where he could actually take a loan from his 401k, which I still advise against, but it's the only way that they could get the capital to pull this off. But again, at the end of the day, if he pays off credit cards and some other stuff that's out there, I think he's ahead of the game. Mathematically, it's just that's a risky way to do it, just because if you ever lose your employment, now you got this loan on a 401k, it's taxable income to you, and it kind of hit you in the head twice.
Will people call you and say, Jeff, I'm thinking about buying a rental house. Jeff, I'm thinking about buying a boat.
Yeah.
And should we be calling you?
Yeah. Heck yeah, run it past us, because I may say, hey, I agree 100% buying rentals. I mean, it's an income-producing scenario, but here's how you finance it, or here's how you pull this off.
And this would be the best scenario
Exactly.
for you
Their
financially
situation.
and for you tax-wise.
Tax-wise, yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I
So
like
we get
it.
a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm going to write a check and buy this in full. But if you really sit back and look at it and you go, yes, you won't like interest rates today, but if you pay that, you got the best of both worlds, and you get to take the deduction anyway. So why take the cash in hand to go buy an asset that then you would have to sell to get the cash back? You finance it, and you'd have cash in hand and the rental coming forward.
And this
So-
doesn't necessarily mean that you're losing your
No.
whole investment, but you can do it in a way where you could, keep $5,000
Exactly.
more.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, why would you go at it any other way?
Yeah.
When I come and sit down and you say, "What's your retirement look like?" The first thing I think of is, am I 65 and do I want to retire, and is my house paid off?
Well, the game is gun for 65 as that jumping off point, so that when you hit age 65,
To have the mortgage gone.
mortgage is gone. Hypothetically, you may end up having a car payment. There's probably no way around it, but credit cards are paid for. Pretty much debt is taken care of, and what that will do is give you the ability to, at 65, to go, can I really retire? And then the next question is, do you really want to retire? And if you hate your job, okay, more power to you. Probably be good for your health. But then I always ask everybody, what's your first day of retirement look like? What are you doing?
Oh, sleeping in.
So it's sleeping in.
Buying a boat.
People are like buying a boat, playing golf.
Yeah.
You can only play so much golf. But again, that's what I want people to look at, is envision what does my retirement really look like? Am I going to lay around the house, watch TV all day, sleep in, stay up late? A couple months, that'd probably be good. But past that, do you really want to do that? Do you want to go out and volunteer, or do you want to, get a part-time job, keep you occupied? And everybody is different.
And if the house is paid off, you still owe taxes
You
every
still owe
year on
taxes and
that.
insurance on it. So
Is that why people downsize?
yeah,
They-
because the real estate taxes and the insurance are still crazy numbers, getting crazier. So people will sell the big house and they'll move to a condo maybe. Condo, you still got your HOA fees and all that kind of stuff. But again, if it's something where you can manage it, more power to you.
But I have always said, sure, your kids have moved out, but you got a beautiful house, and it's got a great view and everything.
Might be too much from a maintenance standpoint. Could just be too much from a maintenance dollars going out the door.
And I'm not even thinking, because my taxes are rolled into my mortgage
Yeah.
payment.
Yeah.
And, I'm not even thinking, when the mortgage goes away, then I just get a tax bill.
You just get a bill.
Yeah.
Shows
so-
up in November and you got 30 some odd days to pay it.
And we've got a budget for that.
Yes.
Throughout
So-
the year.
So what we do in a lot of cases, the required minimum distribution that needs to be taken out
You use
is
that for
taken
taxes.
out fourth quarter of the year, and we use it to pay taxes and insurance, and it's a lump sum, and it's taken care of right then and there.
And theoretically, if you play your cards right, you sell the house and move into something smaller, whether it's a
Yeah.
condo or a bungalow or whatever, and that house is paid off with the proceeds.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've seen people that do that. They sell the big house, they buy that smaller house, they go into that smaller house and they redo the furnace and the hot water heaters, the stuff that could give you trouble over time. Maybe redesign some stuff, but make the house the way they want it. And poof, they're good, hypothetically, for the rest of their lives.
What age would you recommend that I come in and see you for this kind of retirement plan?
Today.
Today?
The problem is if you want to live an extravagant lifestyle in retirement,
Which I do.
you're going to need some jack to help push that along. So you got to make sure that you have that money sitting out there. More so, most people are like, hey, I got $1 million, I'm good to go. You want to travel and do crazy stuff while you're in retirement, and money's no object. You might need $5, $6, $7, $8 million to pull it off. Because remember, you may retire at 65, 66. You've got a plan to early 90s as, hey, what's your longevity? And again, that's the other side of that equation is what's longevity in some of your family? Your parents, how long they live.
Well,
Grandparents.
Grandma lived to be 94, so
Exactly.
unfortunately I need to budget out
You need
to
to budget
that.
out to. No, and so the funny part is this: all the software we use, everybody passes away at age 95. So it just arbitrarily says, you're gone at 95. So It does that, and it tries to run the money out to where, in the old joke is spend your last dollar on the day that you die.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to do.
Yeah. So come in with your brokerage accounts, your retirement accounts, your W-2s, any investments,
Yeah.
any stocks, bonds.
Latest paycheck stubs,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So what that does is give us a great picture of where you sit, and then basically we're putting that line in the sand to say, this is where you're at today. Here's where we can take you to.
If I come in and me personally, I come in and say, Jeff, I want to be retired at 62, you have to have that hard conversation.
Yeah. And your issue is health care. It's going to eat you alive between 62 and 65.
Do you ever have to say, Josh, it's more like 82 for you?
Yeah. A lot of times I'm like, yeah, you can't pull that off. It's impossible.
Right. But if I come in early enough at
Exactly.
42.
And you get the wheels in motion, then time value of money is your best friend, period.
And then, so the idea, maybe have the house paid off by 65.
65 is what you shoot for.
And 65 doesn't have to be the number. And
No.
what did you say? If you like what you do.
If you like what you do and your health is still there and you can get up and function and do what you need to do daily, keep working. There's no written rule that says you got to retire.
What about those equations that say I can make more retired or just as much retired as I can working?
There's been many a case that we've shown and saying,
Teachers, people with
here,
pensions.
you can take this pension and you make more today than you will getting up going to work every day. But again, if you like what you do, that's a whole nother ballgame. To keep doing it. And some people's attitudes are, hey, my father-in-law used to always say that if he never really retired, he just quit. Because he goes, all my buddies that retired all died within 6 months.
Oh, okay, I see.
So his theory was, I quit. He really retired, but he quit.
Boy, he's been looking for a job for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break, and when we come back, a couple more things to hit. Summer activities that could cause tax issues or could have tax benefits.
Yes.
Coming to you. So let's talk about that. It's Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall, 636-394-5524. That's the number over at Capital Advisory Group, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com, 636-394-5524. And what we've been saying all show today is get an appointment on the calendar and plan to get there.
Yes.
Go to the appointment and just get the ball rolling. If you don't have all your stuff, Jeff's going to say, well, this is great, but here's a list.
Here's
a
the list that we
checklist.
need.
Go
Yeah.
home and get these things as well. And at
Exactly.
least you've got the ball rolling.
Yes.
All right, we'll go to break, and when we come back, what kind of summer activities will cost us in taxes or actually give us a tax benefit? We'll talk about that after this.
You are listening to the best of Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall on KTRS.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, back to Keep What's Yours and the summer activities that could cause some tax issues. And when I say issues, sometimes tax issues are a good thing.
Good stuff and bad stuff. I guess the first would be is if you moved. Springtime, a lot of people, that's when they start moving around.
Getting
buying
ready for the
houses,
next school year.
Getting ready for the next school year. But if you move, there's a form that you need to fill out for the IRS. Give them an address change. So the IRS does not forward anything. So if they send you a notice saying, hey, you owe us $33 and you moved, it's going to get kicked right back to them.
Let me ask you this. I don't think I've filled out any forms for the IRS. We've moved within the last 3 years.
But they know because you've already filed a
I've-
return.
Once I
your new-
refile my
yes.
next return, do
Exactly.
they get it?
They get it, and then they know the address change. So, but a lot of people, if there's an issue, like if you had a tax issue, where
In between.
yeah. it becomes a little messy because they can't find you, and they
Okay.
don't forward. If you ever read an IRS envelope on the outside, it says no forwarding.
And if I move in June, and then the IRS is trying to contact me in
Exactly.
September,
You're
they're sending stuff to the wrong
they're
address.
going the wrong place. It gets kicked back, or the postman or post lady should take it and send it back to them.
That's interesting.
So that's one of the big things. A lot of time people get married in the spring. So if you get married, name changes.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Social Security. We have a lot of people that show up and they're like, "Hey, we got married this year," and that's great. But they never change their name.
Mm-hmm.
So Social Security Administration on that, just to kind of get that wheels in motion. Otherwise, you got to it depends on if you changed your name, then we report it on the tax return correctly. If you didn't, we just put both your maiden names, on there and go. So, if your kids go to a summer camp, and as long as they do not spend the night, if they spend the night, you don't get the deducted. But if they just go to a summer camp, it's dependent child care, so you get to write it off.
Oh, really?
So if they go to the Y and they're there from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon or whatever, or they go to art camp or they go to, whatever, it's a camp as long as they do not spend the night. That's the kicker. So it's child care. You get to write it off on your tax return.
I'll tell you, my parents were both teachers, and I'm so naive. I admit I'm so naive when I say this. As an adult with a child, I'm saying, well, what the heck do parents do in the summertime with their kids? Because we never experienced anything like that as kids, because both our parents were home in the summer.
In the summer, yeah.
So summer camps, if you send your kid to a day camp, but these like over the camps back east, the 2-month sleepaway
where it's 2
camp.
months you sleep there, it is not deductible.
What about those teachers that do have time off in the summer and they go and get a part-time job?
So if you get a part-time job, and just make sure there's tax withheld from your paycheck stub, that you do federal and state, depending upon what state you live in, and that it's actually enough. We see a lot of spouses who get a part-time job through the summer, maybe to hide from the kids.
Yeah.
But again, maybe teachers, they're not working. They're getting paid, but they're not working, so they go get this part-time job, and they make $10,000 for the summer, but they have $212 of federal tax withheld. That will mess up your tax return. So make sure that the federal and the state withholdings are equal to what you need.
And you'll never have an issue where, I shouldn't have made all that money.
Technically, it's not really, hey, I made so much money that I paid more in taxes. Very rarely, unless you make, $500,000 a year, and you might have an issue, but you still got the cash in your hand. So taxes are okay. It's more so that you didn't have enough withheld
and you
to
didn't
match
plan
the income.
that $10,000 that you earned, and you only paid $200 in tax.
You're way off. You should have $1,200 withheld.
And the IRS is going to come back and say, we need $1,200, and you're going to say, well, I already spent it.
Yeah, and you're like, well, I shouldn't have worked, but no,
that's how you get dinged. Is because you made the money and then you spent it
and didn't have the tax withheld. So
didn't have the tax withheld.
Yeah, and then the other is since it's springtime, summertime now, technically. Home improvements. Remember that you get basically residential energy credits that are back. They were back last year. They're back this year. If you buy doors, windows, solar panels, hot water heaters, AC units, furnaces, keep the receipts. Typically, most people will get a $600 deduction for it, but it could go as high as $3,200. So here's a weird one that's in there. If you not for room additions or remodeling, but if you had an electrician run, a new lead to your garage or to someplace in the house, part of that is deductible. Believe that or not. So hidden in the tax law, energy efficiency, especially like solar panels and junk like that. But anything that you do to your house, hold that receipt, give it to your tax preparer at the end of the year. You'll probably get a $600 deduction for it.
How about that? Jeff Zufall telling us the things that we need to hear when it comes to our taxes, and otherwise we just wouldn't know that these things exist. So you got a kid going to day camp in the summer, well, that's dependent child care.
Exactly.
You can write that off. You have to, your AC start shooting craps. You got to replace it.
No fun, but
yeah, you can get at least $600 back, and maybe even more. So give Jeff a call, 636-394-5524. Get the appointment on the calendar. Go to the appointment. Get the ball rolling. Bring your stuff. If you didn't bring the right stuff, don't worry. Jeff will give you a checklist and say, go home and look for this. And you can start the process of figuring out how to keep more of your money, not only just in retirement, but every single year.
Yes.
When the tax man cometh, he's going to be asking for a smaller and smaller portion.
Pennies versus dollars.
Yeah. And, even if it's $500 here, $600 there, that all adds up.
It does quickly.
And that adds up to, a new golf cart.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at. Or a trip to Disney, or a cruise up to Maine.
That'd be cool.
My mom's going there this weekend.
Huh.
So bring me back something from Maine, Mom.
Yeah.
But give
Not
Jeff,
much French there. But.
Yeah. Get something going, because otherwise you're just paying the federal government money, and who knows what the heck they do with it.
Yeah.
636-394-5524 is the phone number to call. CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. Keep what's yours. Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
You bet.
You've been listening to Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Manager at Capital Advisory Group. To learn more, call 636-394-5524 or visit CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. The views and opinions expressed in the preceding paid pre-recorded program are those of the host, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this station, its management, or owners.